And good evening, everybody. Welcome to a Star Wars CCG special event. I am Dan Tartaglia, also known as D Tartag 1. So tonight I'm bringing you the finals of the Jawa Brawl. For the last couple of weeks, actually it's been at least a month. I think it's been October 1st to October 31st. A plethora of Star Wars CCG players hashed it out online on GAP, playing in the Jawa format. So for those who don't remember what the Jawa format is, it's taking some of the top decks that we're seeing play throughout the main meta and banning some of those cards, just the decks themselves. So just to recap those decks, they were, for the dark side, you could not play Tatooine Jabba's Palace, Vader's Malediction, and then a Great Tactician Creates Plans. So essentially, no Rots Vader, no Rots Maul, no My Kind of Scum, unfortunately, and no Thrawn. For light side, it was He is the Chosen One, The Force is Strong in My Family, and Quiet Mining Colony. So no Hitco, none of the Anakin Saga or the Luke Saga decks, and then Quiet Mining Colony. So there were a lot of other decks though that you could play. So, but again, were the top decks that weren't able to be played. So after the month-long event, we are down to 2 players left. The first one is, I'll just actually bring those up. So if you go check it out, looks like it's actually ended. So that's interesting. But our top player is Pat Johnson. And our runner-up going into the finals is Anthony Batmouse Howard. So both of them have decided to play the game tonight, at least one game tonight. Once we have if they do decide to play the second game, we'll continue with the stream. Obviously, if they don't, we'll let you everybody know. But we do have the first game ready to go. Let me go ahead and make sure that both participants are ready, which is easy enough because both of them are members of the Killer Bees. So good job on 2 members of the Killer Bees making it to the finals. Anthony Miguel Batmouse Howard. I thought it was Anthony Michael Howard. It was one of the two, Garrett. So Garrett, my longtime co-host, is watching right now as he has other plans. I know a lot of people were recently at the Ohio Mega Worlds, and they came back to their respected homes afterwards. So thanks to everybody who made that weekend just really great. Big thanks to Carl, and big thanks to Kendall, Travis, and Chad for putting on such a great weekend. Okay, so waiting on Pat to throw up the table, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And it looks like Pat has decided. Michael's what I said, and Betty said it's Miguel, so I'm very close. Okay, that's fair. So it looks like Pat is going to go with light side. That means that Batmouse is going to go with dark side, obviously. My prediction was that Pat was going to start with dark side, because I do know what at least Pat is playing. I do not know what Batmouse has decided to go with for his dark side, so I believe that once we get into it, we'll figure everybody. It'll be a surprise for everybody. Okay. And your stream is set, gentlemen, so the floor is now yours. And like I said, we are just waiting on Pat is going to throw up the game here. Yeah, he kind of told me yesterday as well, Garrett. So I know what his options were. I don't know what he decided on at the last moment. So hence why Hence why I find it a little interesting. And like I said, we're just waiting on both the players. Okay, and like I said, just waiting on both of our players right now. They're talking in the team Discord. So, interesting. I kind of figured that Batmouse was going to be on court. That was one of the decks that he sent over to me as well. As for what Pat is on, you'll find out in a second. And like I said, I know what both players are playing for light side and dark side as well. So, or on the reverse one. So Pat has put up the game. It is up. Now we're just waiting on Batmouse to select it. And here we go. Let's jump in, and we have our finals. So Anthony Michael Howard versus Pat Johnson, and there, yep, Garrett, you said it, bud. So it is court versus WHAP. Anthony going with court, Pat going with WHAP. There's both the objectives from our respective players. There's your 3 locations to start out with. Anthony with Jabba's Haven, Power of the Hut, and Battle Order's First Strike. Pat with Walkling, no surprise there. We'll take the long way, again, no surprise. And Security Control. So kind of the same starting effect that we've been seeing. I know Mike Kessling played WHAP over at Worlds. He played all 3 of those cards as his starting cards. Anthony will go out and get his grabber. We're going to probably see Pat. Yep, there he goes. He's going to use We'll Take the Long Way. He's going to go grab a Thief Palace Leader and Camino, and he will take Queen Amidala. He is playing the AI, so that's a really good start as he grabs the Camino system as well. Batmouse will activate 7 Force, and Pat will take his own design card, Ascension Guns, into hand. Pat activates 1 with his objective, and will also go out and get his own grabber. There's Aim High. A pretty good card for Pat in this matchup. As I do expect to see Anthony retrieve some force at some point. Anthony goes out and gets the Coruscant Docking Bay. He did have it in his hand, so it's not a terrible start. Jabba's Haven's going to go attempt to pull now Hutta. And it is in the deck, and with Anthony pulling that, now he has the ability to see what the rest of the cards in the deck are. There's a Twi'lek Advisor, so that's a really good start for Anthony. As he most likely is going to get the Jabba Sail Barge Passenger deck, upping his activation to 12. Or, I'm sorry, his Force Generation up to 12. Now he's going to go deploy a Independent Starship or another docking bay. Yep, there's the Death Star 2 docking bay. So it's going to be interesting to see what Anthony does the rest of the way. If he's got any more locations in his deck. Okay, he is going to use the once per game download from the audience chamber to get Jabba the Hutt V, which is now going to allow him to get Scum and Villainy out of his deck. So get a really solid first turn by Batmouse. And with Jabba at the audience chamber and now Hutta on the table, Anthony can essentially draw up all the cards from his Force pile and activate a Force on Pat's next turn with Power of the Hutt V. And Zem Wessel coming down. Interesting to see her go to the audience chamber. Personally, I would have liked to see her go to the throne room at some point, as if Pat would lose a leader, it would cause a 2 Force loss just from her game text. And Anthony will just draw up the last card out of his force pile and pass turn. So this tells me that either one, Anthony does not have a barrier or stunning leader or some sort of ability to cancel or get around a battle, and he is fearful of just sitting there with Jawa himself. Now, he does only have a 6-card hand. Pat activates 11. Again, he did activate 1 on Anthony. He activated 10. He does have 11 force to work with this turn, as he has 1 activated on Anthony's turn. Batmouse saying that he barely knows what he's doing right now. I don't know if that's because he's busy cooking or what. There we see Qui-Gon Jinn, Serene Jedi, going down to the courtyard. Pat in chat telling Batmouse to do scum things. If you've played Avalon, you know that Anthony Batmouse Howard is a red card, indicating that he is a member of the scum. Pat's going to go out and get an Episode 1 weapon with Security Control V. Most WHAPs, most of these we have a playing decks usually run 2 lightsabers, the Jedi lightsaber variant, and then they also started running the Obi-Wan's lightsaber from Episode 3. But Pat's taking a good look at seeing what's in his deck at this moment. As we see, there's a Jedi lightsaber going on to Qui-Gon, and now Pat, unless he deploys a character to Tatooine, is going to take a point of damage from Batmouse's objective. And Pat is going to activate a force with We Have a Plan. Good call by Pat to activate the force after looking for the Jedi lightsaber, just to decrease the variance of the deck just by a little bit. And there goes a Jedi's concentration out of Pat's hand to the ping damage from the objective. Qui-Gon moves into the Theed Palace hallway for free with the hallway's game text. Now it is a non-battleground, and Pat is just going to draw some cards. So again, both players having a solid first turn. Pat not throwing out Camino yet, and I don't know if he has the Camino location in his. It depends on if it's in his deck. If it's in his deck, deploying the location or deploying the system wouldn't be bad, because then you could deploy the 2-0 site. But at the same time, Pat could just be trying to make sure that Anthony doesn't go to space really quick, because his deck does give him that ability. So Anthony will use now Hutta to take a look at his deck. Pat taking a good hard look, verifying what all the cards on there are in there. Again, Anthony probably not playing a bounty or a hunt bounty, thereby allowing Pat the ability to look at Anthony's deck. Okay, so Pat is done looking, and Anthony will shuffle up the deck. And Pat saying that, yeah, there's a bunch of scum cards in there. That does make sense. And Anthony will pay 3 to drain for 1. Interesting. As Pat's going to lose a Disarmed from his hand. There goes the Ellison Hinthra from Anthony's hand to now Hutta. Anthony setting himself up nicely to get around battle order. As the Ellison Hinthra will attempt to download a smuggler, and he downloads Wolf, probably the best smuggler in the deck, outside of Dr. Avazan and Ponda Baba. And there is Ponda Baba as a passenger. Both of those characters going down from 1 force. Anthony will play Come Here You Big Coward, so that way Pat will not have the ability to drain at the hallway. And it's probably going to be at this moment that Anthony is just going to start drawing some cards, and that is exactly what he's going to do here. Pat already with a 4-card force pile before he activates. He is getting 11 icons. 5 from his own location. 3 from Anthony's, and then Qui-Gon is also giving him 1, as well as Walkling. Anthony does draw up to 9 cards in his hand and activates 1 during Pat's turn. Pat also activating one with his objective. So now he's got 16 force to work with this turn. As he plays Ascension Guns to attempt to move Qui-Gon Jinn, the Serene Jedi, from the hallway to the throne room during the deploy phase. Anthony thinking about what he wants to do here, whether that's he's going to grab the Ascension Guns or do something else. Nope, no grab from Anthony, so Qui-Gon moves over for 1 force. There's the Camino cloning birthing chamber, or the center, so that way now Pat does not have to throw out Camino just yet. The Queen Amidala comes down, flipping Pat's objective. Jiris Janik coming down for 1 force. Very useful card for Pat. Pat still has 11 cards in his force pile and 7 cards in hand. Pat thinking about what he wants to do in his deploy phase. Taking a little bit of time here. Now the question is, does he want to? Okay, so there's 3PO with his parts showing, and he sends him down to Tatooine. Interesting. As Pat will use C3PO, putting a card onto the top of his use pile. Pat takes the damage from the objective, loses a blaster deflection off the top. Now again, that's the card that he put down with 3PO, so interesting that he lost that card. And again, I'm assuming that Anthony has a few EPPs somewhere in his deck that would have been able to keep his Jedi as well as some of the other characters. Anthony in the chat saying, I was going to table flip if that was a gift there. That would have been a very interesting play from Pat. Deploying 3PO to the Great Pit of Carkoon, and then moving 3PO over into the audience chamber, deploying a gift, would might have ruined the day for Anthony. As we see, Pat is drawing up here. And Pat is probably going to save some force, as he has the ability with his objective to cancel any battle destiny that is greater than 3. Now what's interesting is all of his now Republic characters have, as long as they're with Queen Amidala, they have a full immunity to attrition less than 3. So if Anthony wants to get rid of any of those characters, he would have to draw a 3 exactly. They're also fully immune to You Are Beaten and Sniper. Again, Queen Amidala, pretty good card. As we see Pat utilize 3PO to put a card back onto the top of his used pile, drawing a top card off of his reserve deck. And Anthony will move to the control phase and starting to drain. So Pat's going to use It Could Be Worse to reduce the drain at Nalhada by 1. Interesting point to do it there. And it looks like Anthony is contemplating grabbing the It Could Be Worse. However, he will not, as it moves to Pat's use pile. Anthony with 15 cards in his force pile this turn. Action moves back over to Batmouse, who will drain for 1 at the audience chamber, and Pat's going to lose the It Could Be Worse off the top of the use pile. Interesting. Not a move I would take there. I would not assume that he was going to be losing the It Could Be Worse. I mean, he does have an 11 card hand. You would think that he had the ability to lose one of the cards in his hand. And there's Efant Mon going down to the audience chamber. Again, Efant Mon, pretty good character. Opponent's spies, gamblers, and thieves may not deploy or move to the same site as Efant. But on top of that, while with Jawa, he's power +2, and he will satisfy all remaining battle damage and attrition. And it looks like Batmouse is going to draw up, challenging Pat to do something. Now, it's at this moment that Batmouse realizes he's going to be losing at least 2 force during Pat's control phase to the objective. Now, again, Pat could theoretically pay 3 to drain for 2 at the throne room. But so let's see if he is going to do that. We do know he is going to make Batmouse lose 2 force, though, as Anthony activates 1 after he drew up to 14 cards. So he's got a 7-card force pile right now. Pat putting a card back with his objective, or I'm sorry, with 3PO. There's a drain at the throne room. So Pat will initiate a drain. It is a drain of 2 because of the lightsaber there. Anthony will lose Twilight Advisor and a Tentacle off the top of his reserve deck. There's the 2 force loss from the objective. There goes Jabba Space Cruiser and an Imperial Barrier off the top. And Pat's going to use Unita, and that's going to get him back the It Could Be Worse. So that's why he lost it last turn. So he gets the It Could Be Worse back. Attempts to pull a weapon with Security Control V. Pat misses on the weapon pool, and Anthony does get a verify of Pat's deck. So now both people have seen some of their opponent's decks, and Pat's going to use 3 force to pull Projection of Skywalker out of his deck. So it looks like he's just going to try and reduce some of the damage that Anthony is doing by draining. This does not mean that he's going to be doing, he's not going to be attempting to move to Tatooine to stop the damage from the objective just yet. So right now, Anthony is essentially doing 2 points of damage to Pat, whereas Pat is doing currently 4 points of damage to Batmouse. Now, Anthony will have the ability to start retrieving with his Scum and Villainy effect. So, however, you got to think that the throne room is pretty good right now. But we'll see what Anthony has, what tricks are up his sleeves to come down and try and fight the throne room. And Pat will take 1 point of damage from the objective, and he's going to play It Could Be Worse to reduce it by 1. And Batmouse will grab the It Could Be Worse after it is played on him a second time. As we see Pat move into his move phase, and it looks like he's just going to attempt to draw some cards this turn. Saving some force and passing action over down to Batmouse. Again, thank you all for tuning in tonight. This is the Jawa Brawl Finals between our number 1 seed, Pat Johnson, and our number 2 seed, Anthony Howard. Pat draws a few more cards. He draws up to 14, saving 5. And he saves 4, drawing up to 14. As we now pass action over to Anthony, who activates 14. There's a Rebel Leadership from Pat's hand. He's going to go attempt to grab an Admiral or a General, and he's going to grab General Kenobi. You would think that Pat's goal there would not to be grabbing General Kenobi, but to grab an Admiral Yularen. That way he can pair it up with the Resolute and get to space to start not having to pay to drain. But we shall see what Pat's plan here is, as Anthony will drain for 1 at Nalhada, and Pat will lose the Rebel leadership that he just played. As we see Pat putting a card back into his use pile to take the card off of his reserve deck. With 3PO, Batmouse takes a look at his deck. He only has 5 cards in his reserve deck at this point. Anthony passes it over to Batmouse, who says, or I'm sorry, Anthony allows Pat to take a look, and apparently there are 5 aliens in there with the destinies of 2, 2, 2, 3, and 1. So not what not what Anthony wants to see. However, Pat kind of likes it, and here we go. We have our first big action where Batmouse will attempt to play Ellis Hellrot. He draws a 2 for Destiny that he has going to have to pay to transport any character. So Ellis Hellrot will attempt to transfer Zam Wessel to the Camino Clone Birthing Center, as we see Pat will grab the Ellis Hellrot. Does he have the Canceller? He has a Sense. And Batmouse does not play his Sense Shield, so it's not going to do any damage to Pat, and Pat is going to cancel the Ellis Hellrot. Sneaky move from Batmouse, and Pat has the Sense to cancel it. As we move into Anthony's deploy phase, now, being that Anthony has essentially, he's got control of the audience chamber, one thing he could start doing is he could theoretically leave the throne room alone and try to pile up at the courtyard, because it is a drain of 2 there. Or he's going to go straight down to the throne room. There's an IG-88 with Riot Gun. He does draw a Battle Destiny if he's with a Bounty Hunter or if he's alone, and he has the ability to capture characters. Now, the Queen Amidala card gives +2 defense value to all your Republic characters where they are present with her. So Jairus Janet goes from a defense value of 2 to a defense value of 4. Now, the nice thing if you're Anthony is you could theoretically leave the IG-88 there and just see the challenge Pat to say, okay, do you have the Sorry About the Mess combo? But no, Batmouse is going to come down with Jango Fett. So he does add a Battle Destiny there. So right now, Batmouse would be getting 2 Destiny. And we do know that he has 2 2s, a 3, and a 1. There's Cad Bane coming down as well. So Batmouse is throwing some stuff at Pat at this point. P-59 coming down as well. Unfortunately, though, we know that Anthony is not going to draw high enough to hit any of those characters with any of those weapons. So again, IG-88 has a weapon and P-59 has a weapon, but neither of them are going to be able to hit even Jairus Janik. As we see Anthony draw the last card of his reserve deck and pass turn. So now this actually takes off all the damage that Pat was doing to Anthony at this moment, because now Pat does not control the throne room, so he does not cause force loss by a force drain, and that turns off the damage from the objective. As we see Pat activate, Anthony also activating with Power of the Hut. Pat having 16 cards in his force pile, 9 cards in his reserve deck. Anthony with 21 in his reserve deck and 1 card in his force pile. So again, Pat is up on Life Force 25 to 22. And Pat also has a larger hand of 13 to 9. However, Anthony has put quite a few more cards on the table at this point. Now, this is where it would get interesting if one of those cards in Pat's hand is Sorry About the Mess. We do know that he does have a General Kenobi in his hand. And I think if you're Anthony, you would probably try to shuffle up your deck to get those low destiny that you had off the top of the deck. That way you have the possibility of shooting a Jairus Janik. But we'll see what he does. Right now, outside of the deploying the Fanfare Shield, I'm not really seeing any way for Batmouse to shuffle his deck on the table. Now, that doesn't mean he doesn't have something in his hand at this point. And there's Disarmed on IG-88. So Pat loses as a Disarmed earlier in the game, and then plays the second one on IG-88. And Batmouse, with his own Disarmed, taking away Qui-Gon's lightsaber. Disarmed wars, everyone. I mean, it is fitting that both players are disarming each other and on Naboo. So IG-88 no longer has his riot gun, and Qui-Gon Jinn does not have a lightsaber. There's General Kenobi coming down with Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Captain Rex of the 501st Legion. Now he's going to give Pat a second Battle Destiny there. And he's also got his little blaster pistols. I've actually had it happen to me numerous times. And it's not fun when you're on the when you don't think that you're going to get the second, like the second one's going to come down. I think it was actually a WHAP game, something similar to this situation. So, stunning. Yeah, I do agree, Chris, because that would leave only Jairus Janik. But there's the question: Does Pat put Anthony on the stunning leader at this point? There's the Fanfare Shield. So Anthony does play the Fanfare Shield. That's going to allow him to shuffle up his reserve deck. Okay, there's a point of damage to Pat from the Court of the Vile Gangster objective. There goes a Rebel leadership off the top. And here we go, everybody. We have our first battle, with Pat initiating at the Threed Palace throne room. Again, let's see if Anthony has a just action. As we have a moment of silence. And the crowd goes hush, waiting to see if Anthony has a stunning leader or something else here. He does not, so Obi-Wan is going to take a swing with his lightsaber at Jango. Draws a 4 for his first weapon destiny. Draws a 4 for the second one, so that's going to make Jango Fett hit and forfeit 0. P59 is going to take a shot as Jairus Janik. Remember, his defense value is +2, and a 1 will miss him either way. Does Batmouse have the Sith Fury to take that, to cancel that? He does not, so he misses the shot with P59. And Anthony says, wow, I'm real smart. Because he forgot to shuffle his deck. And there's the Clash of Sabers to exclude Jango Fett. So that takes away 2 Battle Destiny from Batmouse, he goes down from 2 to 1. Cad Bane cancels General Kenobi's immunity. I don't think that's going to come into play. Rex takes a shot at P-59. Now the total is going to be -3, so that's a 5 for the first one. And a 1 for the second one, so that's not going to hit the Droideka. Unless Pat has an answer here to cancel his Weapon Destiny draw. There's the Jedi Levitation, and it looks like he's going to take it into hand. So instead of canceling it and causing a redraw, he's just going to simply take the Qui-Gon Jinn Serene Jedi to take it into hand. And however, Pat uses General Kenobi to add 1 to the second to the 1 to make it a 2, and that's actually going to hit P-59. So here we go. Pat draws a 1 for his first Battle Destiny. Draws a 4 for the second one, so he's going to have 26 in power. Batmouse draws a 2. Now, I mean, everybody, and the thing is, everybody is immune. Except for General Kenobi. As Batmouse is thinking about that Destiny of 2 there. So he's going to cancel it and cause a redraw. This means that either is Batmouse tracking? And apparently he was, because he draws a 3 instead. And a 3 cannot be canceled by Pat's objective. So there goes the Qui-Gon Jinn Serene Jedi. As we do know that Pat has a second one in his hand. P-59 goes lost. Batmouse still has to lose 5 in battle damage. Probably going to just lose the Cad Bane here. And that is his turn. So not a bad turn of events if you're Pat. And it could have been a lot worse for Anthony Howard. We move still in Pat's battle phase as he uses 3PO to put a card back, take a card off the top of the deck. Might see Pat save some force as well, just in case Anthony has the ability to come down and attack Pat. And Pat's going to draw a card. And he'll pass her over to Anthony. He does save 2 cards in his force pile. Yeah, the fact that neither player had to use the Hujix or the Gik, like the fact that Batmouse did not have to Gik out of that battle was really good for him. And Batmouse does start his turn. He's going to drain for 1 at Nalhutta. Again, Anthony's not doing a lot of damage to Pat. He's just draining for 1 at Nalhutta and getting the ping damage from the objective, whereas Pat right now, again, is threatening 4 points of damage, 2 from the objective and 2 from the Obi-Wan's lightsaber. Pat does lose a Where You Looking For Me off the top of his reserve deck. Prince Shizor goes down to the Theed Palace hallway. Interesting to see him go there. I would have preferred to go to the courtyard just because, again, it is a drain of 2. And it is further away from that stack of characters at the throne room. But there is a reason why Batmouse is playing, and I am sitting here talking about what Batmouse does. And he'll use one force, move Zam over to the Great Pit. And he looks like he's just going to draw. So this tells me that Batmouse might have a Stunning Leader in his hand. It's going to be interesting to see if he had it in his hand on Pat's turn last turn. Most likely he did. So if he did, I'm curious to see why he did not Stunning Leader out of that battle. As our glorious design advocate so eloquently put. So Batmouse is going to draw a few cards. And he'll draw up to 12 cards in hand and pass turn over to Pat. Batmouse with 17 in his life force. Pat sitting at 21. Again, we do know that Pat is, like I said, Pat is going to be doing at least 4 points of damage this turn. As we see there's drain of, I'm sorry, not the drain, but the damage from the objective. So there goes a Zuckuss Miss Hunter from Anthony's hand, as well as a Twilight Advisor. And Pat will pay 3 to drain for 2 at the throne room. Again, Obi-Wan's lightsaber does add 1 as long as he is at an episode 1 location. I believe it is just episode 1. I'm sorry, at a Naboo battleground. As there goes an Imbalance and Kintan Strider off the top of the force pile, as well as a Boba Fett Bounty Hunter off the top of the reserve deck for Batmouse. As we now are in Pat's deploy phase at this moment. So we do know that there should be at least one lightsaber left for Pat. He does have a Qui-Gon Jinn Serene Jedi in his hand. So it's going to be interesting to see what Anthony has in his hand as well. Whether that's being an Imperial Barrier or Stunning Leader or some sort of other evasion. And he could have the Gik as well. But we shall see. As action is still on Pat. Both players are sitting over 44 minutes on their timer, so I do not anticipate either of them going to time in this game. And again, we are not sure if they're going to be playing Game 2 right after this game. I believe it depends on how late this game finishes. If they do not go to Game 2 right after this game, stay tuned to the forums as well as Twitter, or X as it's now called, Slack, and all the other ways to get all information regarding Star Wars CCG. As Pat is taking his time thinking about what he's doing. Pat being very methodical on his approach with this game, even though he is slightly ahead at this point. But the ability that Court of the Vile Gangster has to just battle and retrieve multiple times in the game is something to be wary of. We also know that Pat still has the Camino system in his hand. So if he is able to combine, to get his Space Forces up there and start draining for 2 up there, things would look very good for him. As Pat is saying that he is thinking, and Batmouse says sure. I can imagine Batmouse is thinking as well. Pat using 3PO either to see what's in his deck and get another card, like a fresh card, or to make it so that he doesn't take any, to run the risk of timing out. So Pat plays Rebel Leadership to take an Admiral or General into hand. No Admiral or General are in there, so the Rebel Leadership goes back onto the top of the use pile, not really doing anything. But again, Pat is, again, thinking about what he wants to do here. Right now, Anthony is showing that he has the ability to do 3 points of damage via drains next turn. This turn, he actually is able to do 1 point of damage, being that unless he deploys a character to Tatooine. But I do think if you're Pat, at this point, you really don't need to go to Tatooine. And I believe, like, the Zam is sitting there at the Great Pit by herself. There's a famous meme out there. If you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure that's bait. Personally, I would try to get up to space as fast as much as I could here. Whether that is at Nal Hutta or at the Camino system. And Pat is just going to pass out of his deploy phase, so he does lose 1. There goes a Kit Fisto from his hand. We see that Pat is using the holographic Kit Fisto that was awarded from the online play week. So if you're interested in getting some of these cool AIs, make sure you all pay attention to when online play week is, or just simply subscribe to the PC's Twitch channel. It's another good way of getting all the PC swag that Jared, our marketing advocate, puts out there. Another cool way of getting swag is to attend events, just like the Ohio Mega Worlds, just wrapped up this past weekend. So move on to Batmouse's turn, and he activates. Pat uses 3PO. Drains for 1 at Nal Hutta. And I think at this point, Pat's in a good position because he's essentially forcing Anthony to do something, but he's not really doing a lot. And there goes a Hujix from Pat's hand. Interesting. The Odin Essler combo as well. Again, 2 cards I'm not necessarily sure I would be okay with losing to drains. There's the drain at the Great Pit. And Pat will lose a sense. So again, I don't know if I feel good losing that Fujix to the drain there. It just screams risky to me. As Batmouse takes a look and sees what those 3 cards are in his reserve decks, and here we go. He goes Hondo Anaka to the Thief Palace Courtyard. Batmouse trying to up the damage by deploying more characters to the ground. And unfortunately, there's really not a lot of other places he can go at this point unless he has a spy. As we see him do, he will move from his battle to move to draw step. So now he is drawing some cards out of his force pile. So Anthony is kind of challenging Pat to do more than just sitting at the throne room. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that Pat is not just... He's trying to get to space here, assembling his space fleet. Not sure which part, what he has in his deck. Possibly a Admiral Yularen, possibly the Resolute, Anakin. I know that Mike Kessling has started using Admiral Killian and the Endurance as well. We've also seen the Azure Angel a few times in some of these WHAP decks. Rick Olay in the Queen's Royal Starship has been almost a staple in We Have a Plan. So, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what Pat does here. So we do move on to Pat's turn. Anthony with a 14-card hand, but only 10 force down. He is going to need to start cycling some cards, or else he's not going to be able to play a lot of stuff. As Pat will activate everything, saving 1 force. So he activates only 9. He does have the ability to activate up to 12, but he only activates 9, saving 1. There's the damage from the objective, so there goes a Greedo from Batmouse's hand, as well as A stunning leader from his hand. So, again, Anthony is just... Both players are being a little risky with some of the cards that they have. I don't know if this is intentional or what, but I'm definitely curious. Pat will drain at the Palace Throne Room. He adds 1 to it with the lightsaber. So again, it is a drain of 2. There goes a Land of Dobreed and Sacrifice from Anthony's hand. And a Calm Scan Detection. Not a useful card. Anthony down to 20 hand in life. Pat's comfortably sitting at 27. And action is in Pat's deploy phase. He's got 16 force left to work with this turn. Again, he only saved 1, so the question is, where is he going to go? I'm guessing it's probably going to be down to where Hondo is. Anthony does have 5 cards in his force pile, so he could potentially have an Imperial Barrier here. Again, Pat thinking about taking his time here, thinking about what he wants to do. He's currently sitting at he's actually sitting at over 6 minutes of difference on the timers at this point. Pat with 39 minutes left. Bat Mouse sitting with a little over 45. But again, Pat is taking his time, thinking about what he wants to do. Again, Anthony is showing that he has the ability to do 5 points of damage to Pat, not including the objective. See that Pat is going to use security control to attempt to pull a episode 1 weapon. He does miss, but I'm assuming that's just him checking out and seeing what the destiny he has there is. Action still on Pat. And again, he is taking some time here to deliberate what he wants to do. Again, pitching that Hujix there. Interesting move. So, okay, here we go. Camino going down. That bumps everybody up. Their activation, or their force generation up by 2. There's the Queen, the Rick and the Queen's Royal Starship. Not really surprised to see that. Admiral Yularen hops aboard as a pilot. And Anthony plays the barrier on the Admiral Yularen. And I'm assuming that's only to cycle of Destiny 4 back. But I'm not sure. Solo comes down as a passenger as well. So now that Hujix that Pat threw away is back in play, so if he does need it, he can still play it out of the lost pile with Solo. Pat loses a force to the objective. As we see, Batmouse is going to use Jabba's Haven to retrieve a force. To retrieve an alien or non-maintenance cost alien or independent starship, and he's going to take Zuckuss and Miss Hunter. Interesting play, because right now with Admiral Yularen and Solo up there, he does have the Zuckuss. Well, actually, you could only add 1 pilot, and both Admiral Yularen and Solo ability of 3, and Zuckuss' Miss Hunter require ability greater than 6. So Pat probably won't get Destiny. And again, what's interesting is right now Anthony's doing quite a bit of damage. Like I said, he's doing 5 points of damage from drains this turn. And Pat currently only has a 2-card hand. I would have, if I was Pat, I would have liked to have seen somebody go down in front of Hondo just to block that drain of 2. But there's got to be a reason why he didn't do it. So there's a drain of 1 at now Hutta. There's a drain of 2, as we see, sorry about the mess, and Blaster Proficiency off the top of the reserve deck. There goes a Jedi's Resilience to the drain to the courtyard as well. Drains for 1 at the Theed Palace hallway. There goes Ascension Guns V. Anthony decided just to be a little cheeky. Drains for the audience chamber for 0, and he'll drain for 1 more at the Great Pit. As we see, there's the second Jedi lightsaber going lost as well. So Pat currently sitting at 14 cards in Life Force and 3 in hand. Anthony's sitting at 11 in Life Force, but he has a 10-card hand at this point. But now that Pat has some presence up in space, we could see him start to drain for free. So, but let's see what Anthony is going to do this turn. Okay, here we go. Mara Jade with lightsaber going down to the Theed Palace throne room. Interesting not to see the Zuckuss and Miss Hunter, but it is quite a bit of power up there at the Camino. Anthony initiates a battle, pays 2, retrieves 2. He'll retrieve the Calm Scan Detection V and Lando Breed and Sacrifice combo. Now, with Jiris Janik there, you cannot hit Queen Amidala. So, yep, Anthony's going to take a swing at Jiris Janik. He is defense value 4. Draws a 5 for the first Destiny. Draws a 4 for the second one. And again, Jiris Janik is immune to Sniper and You Are Beaten. And Anthony did not save any force for drawing Destiny, but it really doesn't matter because Jiris Janik is there. Pat's going to take a swing at Mara Jade with her lightsaber. He draws a 1 for Destiny. He draws Mace Windu AI. And draws a 4, so that's going to miss the Mara Jade. But right now, Batmouse is down by 12 in power and 2 Destiny. Oh, Pat is going to add 1, and that is going to hit the Mara Jade. So, Mara Jade is sliced and diced and torn apart in the throne room, just like the movies. Again, Anthony cannot draw Destiny. Pat is going to draw a 1 for his first Destiny. He is going to get a second one with Captain Rex. Draws a 4 for the second one. This tells me that Anthony just wanted to get some cards back, even though it's going to cost him his Gick here. Again, he is down by 17. There goes Jiris Janik to the lost pile. And yep, Anthony does have the Gick. And there's no other reason for him to initiate there. So we now go into Anthony's move phase. As we see Anthony draw up, Pat is going to use Walkling and place it out of play to retrieve a force, as we see him get the Jiris Janik back, and Batmouse does not have secret plans on the table, so Pat does not have to pay for it. I will say that fanfare is doing a lot of work for Anthony in this game. Pat activates 5, tells me that he's going to use 3PO, put a card back, get a card off the top, so he knows what is that card. Batmouse finally uses fanfare to shuffle up his deck. Yep, Pat activates 4 more cards, so he's got 13 force to work with this turn. Anthony activates 1 with Power of the Hutt. Drains for 2 at the throne room. Batmouse loses Guri from hand. And Scum and Villainy from hand. Does 2 ping damage with the objective. There goes a Boba Fett Bounty Hunter, as well as a Dengar with Blaster Carbine. And drains for 2 at Camino. So 6 points of damage from Pat this turn. There goes Lady Proxima and Gor Koresh. A very not fun character if you're playing WHAP. Recent set 23 card. Your mercenaries are power +1 here. Opponent may not cancel your battle destiny draws where you have a gangster or non-maintenance cost bounty hunter. When deployed, may deploy a mercenary. So looking at the table, oh yes, those are all gangsters or bounty hunters. So everywhere that Batmouse has presence, Pat could not cancel the destiny. A little bit of banter between both of our players. Batmouse saying he wishes that he had Gor Koresh at any point this game. Pat saying you could have just lost him at any point, and then Jabba's Haven and back. Batmouse saying that I didn't want to do that. There's Jirish Janik coming back down, sitting at the throne room, protecting his queen. Yeah, we do know that Pat has I believe he has the Qui-Gon Jinn Serene Jedi in his hand. Again, I wouldn't mind him going down in front of Hondo Anaka or possibly Zam Wessel. Either of those would be fine. You go down in front of Zam, block that drain of 1, or remove her, and also stops the ping damage from the objective. Or if you go down to where Hondo is, you get rid of that drain of 2, but you don't stop the damage from the objective. So it's going to be interesting to see what Pat does this turn with his 2-card hand. Takes a look and sees what his destiny are, and Pat Mouse goes bleh. Clearly means that Pat has a high destiny card as his 1 card in his reserve deck. And Qui-Gon Jinn does go down in front of Zam Wessel. Only problem for Pat is this will probably get rid of 3PO. Pat does initiate a battle at the Great Pit of Carkoon. As we see, Batmouse deploys Greedo as he react for 1 force. Does Pat have a way of canceling it? Again, he only has a 1-card hand here. No, he's going to use Solo, and he's going to use the Odin Essler and First Aid combo card to send Greedo back to Anthony's hand. Odin Essler and First Aid will go out of play, but it stops the react. Pat draws a 5 for his battle destiny. Oh, there's quite a mercenary. That's kind of a good card. So Pat sitting at power 12. Anthony draws a 5. You know what that means? Pat can cancel it with his objective. Now, Anthony currently down by 8 in power. So there goes Zam Wessel. And he's going to have to lose 2 more. There goes Greedo from his hand. And Orsing with Blaster Rifle as well. So, well, if you are rooting for Batmouse, the nice thing is, though, he is still doing 4 points of damage on his next turn, at least. Pat's going to draw some cards. Pass turn over to Anthony. So again, Batmouse sitting at 9 cards in his life force. Pat's 14. Batmouse 4 cards in hand to Pat. In his hand to Pat's 2. Anthony activates 6. Pat uses 3PO. Drains for 1 at Nalhutta. He Now, Batmouse did save 3 cards. There goes a quite a mercenary off the top. There's a drain of 2 at the Thief Palace Courtyard. There goes a Rebel Leadership and a Commander Cody. Drains for 1 at the Naboo Hallway. As we see an Escape Pod, and we're doomed to go lost. There's no escape from Anthony, so it looks like he's going to attempt to try and get Aura Singh with Blaster Rifle back to his hand. Pat still has 3 cards in his force pile as we see Aura Singh with Blaster Rifle go down to the Great Pit. Action moves over to Pat. Does not look like he has a barrier. He does not, as Anthony will take a look at his deck. See what's in there. See what he likes. He attempted to deploy Bib, Hot Influence, or a Barge from his reserve deck using Power of the Hut V. So Anthony, again, like I said, takes a look at his deck, and he does initiate Aura Singh versus Qui-Gon Jinn, the Serene Jedi, and 3PO with his parts showing. Fear the 3PO with his parts showing. Batmouse uses 2 Force. He is going to retrieve 2 Greedo and Zem Wessel. Go back into his deck. Aura Singh takes a shot at Qui-Gon. Draws a 3. Now a 4 here would hit Qui-Gon. And it is a 4. So Qui-Gon Jinn, Serene Jedi, is hit and forfeit his 0 right now. As Anthony draws a 5 for Battle Destiny, that is, again, going to get canceled with the objective. Pat draws a 3, so it is going to be 4 to 10 in favor of Pat. So that is going to be Aura Singh and 1 extra card. But it did get rid of Qui-Gon. As 3PO stands alone at the Great Pit of Carkoon. 3PO is the king of the pit. As we see, Batmouse goes into his move phase, so it looks like he's probably just going to draw that 1 last card that's in his force pile and pass turn over to Pat. And that's exactly what he does. Both players have 10 cards in their life force. As we see, Pat activates everything. Anthony activates 1 with Power of the Hut. However, Anthony is about to have to lose 6 cards here. 2 to the Drain of Camino, 2 to the Drain of the Throne Room, and 2 to the Objective. No, this 3PO cannot be engaged in battle as he has no ability. The reason he's sticking around, though, is because Batmouse did not draw Destiny. If he did draw Destiny, he probably would have got rid of the 3PO. Now, he did draw Destiny, but it was canceled again because of the We Have a Plan objective. There goes Sith Fury, Zuckuss and Mist Hunter, Forlorn with Concussion Rifle, Color Scan Detection V, Stinger, and Zam Wessel, all to those drains. As Yoda, the Master of the Force, comes down to Tatooine. There's a few droids that can be battled. All battle droids can be battled. 3PO moves into the audience chamber. Does Pat have a gift? It would be hilarious if he did. But for light side, I believe there are just a few. I don't think there's really any light side droids that can be battled. If anybody in the chat knows the answer to that, that would be great. So Pat deploying Yoda there does make him not have to lose force to the objective. And we see Pat draws a few cards, passes turn, lead. But thank you, Chris. You know what, Chris? You're going to get yourself a GEMP pack for that. Make sure somebody gets you your pack here. Batmouse drains for 1 at now Hutta. Yeah, I was thinking I know they could pilot the Falcon. I forgot that they could be battled. Drains for 1 at now Hutta. Drains for 2 at the... Well, he drains for 1 at the hallway first. K2SO. Yep, K2SO, I believe. Yeah, I forgot he could be battled too. Jack Bear, tell me what you're... Oh, and there's a control and tunnel vision to cancel the drain at the courtyard from Pat. Jack Bear, who are you on GEMP so we can get you a GEMP pack? There's a Probot going down to Camino to start doing some damage there. However, okay, so there's Jabba moving over. Jack Bear. Okay, thank you. Jabba moves over in front of Yoda. Efont Mon follows him like a lost little puppy. So that is going to give Batmouse now might have the ability to actually drain again this game. Ellis and Hinthra are going to move over to Camino. So Batmouse is throwing caution to the wind at this point. As both players are down to 7 cards in their life force. Pat with 1 card in hand. As we see, Pat activates. He's up to 5 in his force pile. Up, he activates 1 more, so he's got 1 force saved in his reserve deck. There's the drain of 1 at the throne room. Again, it is a drain of 2, as the lightsaber does add 1. Batmouse loses turn it off, and Greedo. There's a 2 force lost from the objective, as we see Imperial Barrier and Twilight Advisor got lost. Anthony down to 3 cards in total to Pat's 8. Now, again, Pat has 7 cards in his life force, but he has 1 card in his hand. Pat taking a look and seeing what that 1 card is. As we have Anakin Skywalker, Padawan learner, going down in front of the Probot. And Batmouse saying, that is not what I wanted to see. Anthony, I will agree with you 100% there, sir. Anakin battles for free, draws a 5 for Battle Destiny. It becomes a 6 because of his game text. That's going to be power 11 to the little probe droid who could. As we see Anthony draw a 4, Pat will use his 1 last force to cancel it, adding insult to some injury. And I believe that is going to knock Batmouse out, and Pat is going to take game 1. So again, Pat takes game 1 with 7 cards left in his life force, 28 cards in his lost pile to 38. Pat asking in the chat whether or not we're going to see game 2 here or not. The 38 in lost. Just throwing that up there so we have a reference of it. No word yet on Batmouse. Oh, so they're leaving it up to me. What does the audience want to do? Does the audience want to see game 2 tonight, or do you want to see it another night? We have 2 go for it. And you know what? We're also going to do another giveaway at some point during this game. So we've already done 2. Jack Bear and Chris Kelly. You both are getting packs. Let me go ahead and inform the men, Kif. Okay, so let's go ahead and get set up for game 2. So I will get out of this, go into there. It looks like game 2 is ready to go. Pat on dark side, Batmouse on light side. Dogs and cats living together. Let's see, here we go. Okay, it looks like, again, Pat has posted the next game. And here we go, game 2, Batmouse, Pat, round 2, fight. We have our good luck, have funs. Both players not going with the no reverts. So we have kind of an old school matchup. I love it. We have Throne Room Mains versus Agents of Black Sun. Let's go. Anthony going with Insurrection Aim High. I must be allowed to speak. And your insight serves you well in staging areas. Interesting. Pat going with Quietly Observing V. Shadows of the Empire. And wipe them out, all of them. So interesting to see that Batmouse is going with insight. Your insight serves you well and staging areas. Now, this means that he could be pulling Honor of the Jedi. This is an easy way to get that. And Pat is going to right away play a Dark Time for the Rebellion before Batmouse even activates or gets his grabber. It's causing 1 point of damage. I'm assuming that Batmouse listened to Ryan Jelson and decided to go with this version. I could be wrong. There goes the point of damage as we see Wisa got a Grand Army going to the lost pile. There goes Insight serves you well to pull Honor of the Jedi. So until Pat can get the no escape, if he's playing the regular no escape, he will. Batmouse should be able to reduce some of the damage that Pat can do. Batmouse finally getting out his grabber. Now Batmouse only getting 2 force to start with on his first turn. Pat getting 4. There's the Fanfare Shield from Pat. Now, I would find it extremely funny if that one card that he activated was the Shizor's Bounty. I would die laughing. I'm just saying. I doubt it's going to happen as we do see him pull it, but it would have been hysterical. And I will say this, though. Interesting choice of decks from Pat, being that there's still not evidence, but I would say there's still the chance of the AOBS bug, as we see Pat reveal Erica V and Mithron Renudo as both his Black Sun agents. Anthony going to use Insurrection and Aim High. He's going to attempt to pull a Docking Bay. There's the Hoth Echo Base Docking Bay. There's the home one, docking bay from his hand. So Batmouse did not get truly throne roomed. There's the Boss Nash Chambers as well. And Anthony's going to use his once per game to deploy a farm from his reserve deck. There is the large moisture farm. So Anthony up to 8, activating 8 on turn 0, essentially. So again, I for one welcome our Throne Room Mains Masters back into the meta. It has been a long time since we've seen you. Anthony deciding to draw both the cards that he activated. Interesting. Now, we know that Pat is playing Dark Time for the Rebellion V in his deck. He's already played it once this game. Batmouse not leaving any force means that he does not care if Pat's going to play it again on his first turn. Pat activates 5, and he's going to use the Black Sun. The Imperial City to deploy a Black Sun character with lore, and he hits on the Vigo. Again, Pat deciding not to use Shadows of the Empire to pull the Imperial Square first before getting the Vigo. As we see, there's the Shizor's Palace, so now he can start pulling all of his sites. One way to play against a mains deck with Ages of the Black Sun is to only pull one location until you're ready to move to your to spread out on Coruscant. Let's see if Pat is going to take that mode of play. However, no, he's not. There's the uplink station from his hand. Anthony uses his shield pool to pull Yavin Sentry and Golden Rod. As we see Pat moves Prince Shizor over to the Shizor's Palace. How fitting. The Vigo joins him. We do know that he has one card in his hand that is the Shizor's Bounty. Outside of that, we really don't know what the rest of his cards are. Pat flips his objective. He puts a card back to take a look at his force pile, and he draws those 2 cards. So with Wipe Them Out, all of them on the table, as long as Pat occupies the battleground, he is going to be able to activate a force on Anthony's turn. Anthony activates 10. Anthony hoping that hopefully for Anthony, those 2 cards that he drew last turn, one of them was a Speak with the Jedi Council. That way he can get his Jedi Council chambers. There's Honor the Jedi. Ezra Bridger going down in front of the Vigo and Prince Shizor, trying to bait out the Shizor's Bounty here. No Shizor's Bounty, however, there is a Chewie with Bowcaster coming down. Does Anthony have a controlled tunnel vision in his hand here? There's the Shizor's Bounty on Chewie with Bowcaster. As we see, the Chewie Bowcaster got bountied, and now what's interesting is they're stuck there with Ezra Bridger. So now Pat is going to have the choice here. Is he going to allow Anthony to activate 2, or is he going to have 2 less force to work with this turn? And he is going to allow Anthony to activate 2. Yet Pat is flipped, so he is going to cause some damage with the objective. However, with Anthony having Honor of the Jedi out on the table, it's going to reduce it by 2. As we go into Pat's control phase. Again, the results after Game 1. Pat took Game 1 by 7. There's the Vengeance of the Dark Prince ping. However, Honor of the Jedi, again, reduces it by 2. Oh no! IG-88 with Riot Gun coming down. Aura Singh with Blaster Rifle coming down as well. Pat pulling a 0 out of his deck, wisely. This could be trouble for our Intrepid Sheriff. As we see that Pat is getting 2 Battle Destiny. IG-88 is going to attempt to capture Chewie. Draws a 6. Chewie is captured. The bounty goes lost. Pat can retrieve a force. And he gets to see what Batmouse's hand is. The question now is, does Anthony have the Hujix? Pat will not use a force to retrieve the prepared defenses. As Chewie goes to the use pile. Ezra down to power 2 and not getting a Destiny. Pat getting 2 Destiny here. Arsing takes a shot at Ezra. And draws a 6. That's going to hit our little Padawan before he's a Padawan. All comes down to, does Anthony have the Hujix, or is this going to be a victory in the Jawa Brawl for Pat Johnson? Pat draws a 5 for his Battle Destiny. We do not have to concede just yet. Draws a 3 for the Battle Destiny. 24-2. And Pat gives it away, saying he's got the Hujix. He takes away all the drama. Pat, you have ruined everything for everybody. I now have decided to root for my hero, Anthony Howard. As we see, there's the Pat going to take a look and see what is in his force pile. And Pat draws the last card. Anthony getting 11 force to work with on his turn as he activates 11. As we see Obi-Wan Kenobi V going down to the sewer. And Anthony will just simply draw up some cards. Now he can use Obi-Wan at any point to draw to swap 2 cards from his hand with 1 card in his lost pile. Pat activates 13. He'll have 14 force to work with this turn. No battle plan yet from Anthony, so that's going to be a drain of 1 for Pat for free. As we see a BB-8 go to the lost pile from hand. Now again, with the Vengeance of the Dark Lord, or I'm sorry, Vengeance of the Dark Prince out, Honor of the Jedi is still going to reduce it by 1. So Batmouse is not in a terrible position just yet. As the Emperor comes down to the uplink station. Pat paying all 5 force there. Going to take a Force Lightning into hand now. What's nice is Pat is going to be able to essentially cycle the Force Lightning with the objective to see what is in his force pile. And mixing that with Shadow of the Emperor, Shadows of the Empire, he can see what's in his force pile, manipulate it down to what the 1 card that he wants to get, and just draw it with the effect. Another thing we could see Pat do is deploy another character to either the sewers or to the moisture farm and draw a card off of his force pile to do an extra point of damage. So, again, Pat has a lot of options here. I do kind of like him moving somebody, I don't know who, probably Aura Singh, over with the Emperor. But that also depends on if he has some sort of evasion, whether that is like a barrier or his own Gick. There's Battle Order from Pat to start Anthony draining for free. And Pat does draw a card with Shadows of the Emperor. As we see, Anthony takes his turn, activates. Pat's going to draw a card with Shadows of the Empire. And Anthony is going to pay 3 to drain for 2. I do not hate that move. Pat's going to lose an Emperor Palpatine and an Emperor Palpatine off the top of his reserve deck. Yoda going down in front of the Emperor. Anthony deploys Battle Plan and Draw Their Fire. Now he's going to be able to now he's going to be able to battle for free with that card out on the table. As we see an out of commission and transmission terminated from Batmouse. Pat has the sense. Anthony will grab the sense. Pat draws a 5, and there's really nothing that Batmouse can do about that. As the out of commission and transmission terminated goes to the lost pile. Anthony's going to take a look and see what is in his deck. Pat does get a free verify. And he's going to play Weapon Levitation. He's going to take a Luke's lightsaber out of his used pile. As we see, Anthony will initiate against the Emperor. That is a good question, Chris Kelly. Batmouth draws a 1 for Destiny, says oof, and Pat draws a 4. So Anthony's going to lose 1 to his own battle. As Rey goes to the lost pile. Both characters are immune, but outside of that, not really much changes. As we see, Rey does go to the lost pile. Anthony will draw some cards, saving 1. Pat activates, puts a card back with his objective to see what is in his force pile. There's the 2 damage that is reduced by the Honor of the Jedi. And Pat goes into the tank thinking about what he wants to do during his draw phase, or during his deploy phase. No, you are not. So when that happens, you have to use the control before you see the destiny. And there's an Ellison Hinthra going down to Coruscant V. Once Pat puts a character up there, as we see Mithra Menudo as a pilot, so now Pat occupies 3 battleground locations, making it into a battleground. There's Bannis Keeg coming down as a passenger, allowing Pat to draw the top card of his reserve deck. So now, again, he can start using Shadows of the Empire for some ping damage as well. But again, Honor of the Jedi is going to stop that. Pat needing to find no escape at this point to turn Honor of the Jedi off. Actually, because he occupies 3 battlegrounds, it's going to get through. Yeah, there's the Shadows ping, and Batmouse has to lose a force. As we see Aura Singh move over, Anthony's going to lose a We Still Got a Grand Army from his hand. As we see, action moves over to Batmouse, activates, pays to drain for 2 at the sewer. At this point, Anthony really needs to move the needle a little bit more. Yes, he is paying to drain for 2. Outside of that, it's not really doing a lot. As we see, there's the attempt to pull a docking bay with Insurrection and Aim High. Pat getting a free Verify. Anthony's saying that his destiny is pretty garbage. If that's what it is, that's not looking good for Mr. Anthony Batmouse Howard. As we see, Batmouse is going to exchange We Should Got a Grand Army with Odin Nestler and First Strike to get Ray from his lost pile. There's Dash Rendar V going down in front of the Emperor and Aura Singh. Might see a Ray come down as well. Yep, Ray going down. And there's the Imperial Barrier from Pat. Pat showing patience there as Ray is barriered. Now, Batmouse will be able to get a card out of his use pile with Ray. Either probably going to see him grab Blaster Deflection. That would be a good card to grab. Maybe a character, but we shall see. Pat uses Mithron Renudo to target the uplink station. If Batmouse moves to the uplink station, it would cause a point of damage. And we see Batmouse uses Ray's game text and plays Anakin's lightsaber onto Ray. Fortunately, she is barriered, so. And we have Anthony is going to initiate a battle. Yoda, Master of the Force, with Dash Rendar V against Aura Singh with Blaster Rifle and Emperor Palpatine. Pat uses Force Lightning to make Yoda defense value -4 this turn. Aura Singh takes a shot at Yoda. Batmouse has the Blaster Deflection. Blaster Deflection goes to the use pile. I wonder if that is the card that Batmouse drew from his use pile with Ray. And Anthony draws a 0 for his Battle Destiny. Whereas Pat will draw a 2. Now, because Aura Singh is in the battle with Dash Rendar, Batmouse can use Dash Rendar to subtract from the attrition. He draws a 3, and that's going to make it so the attrition is down. The attrition and total power are down by 3. So now Pat has to lose 2. Amazing Destiny draws by both players. Chris Kelly saying, "Where are my Jedi Luke Skywalkers right now?" As we see, Anthony is saying that it's not his night. Pat goes to his activate phase, activates 15. As we see, Pat drains for 1 at Coruscant. Anthony loses Weapon Levitation. He also drains for 1 at the Sheezlord's Palace, loses Escape Pod and Wear Doom from hand. And now, Batmouse is going to have to start losing to the objective. There goes the Wild Card and Speak with the Jedi Council, both from the reserve deck. Anthony down to 25 in his life force. Pat sitting at 21. As we see Jango Fett get deployed. Forlom with Concussion Rifle as well. So now Pat showing 2 Battle Destinies. A weapon with Aura Singh. Cad Bane, who is able to cancel Yoda's immunity. Forlom, who's able to cancel the game text. And we already know that Batmouse has already used his Hujix this game. Really quick, first person in the chat, besides Chris Kelly, who has a pack this game, or this match, first person into the chat who can name me the underlying cards for both Young Skywalker and Palpatine Galactic Empire will win a Gemp pack. As we see hidden weapons get played. Targeting Ray. Draws a 6. And Ray goes lost. I said, Chris Kelly, you were exempt from winning the pack. So Keith gets the pack. Ray goes to the lost pile. Hidden weapons goes to the used pile. Forlom canceling Dash's game text. R. Singh's going to take a shot at Yoda. Draws a 3. Needs a 4 here to hit Yoda. Draws a 2, so Yoda is not going to be hit. Oh, I'm sorry. His defense value was -2, so yes, or -4, so yeah, he is hit. And forfeit made 0. Dash has no game text. Yoda is hit. And Batmouse is down by 12 in power before Destiny. Pat draws a 3. And a 5. Bringing his total up to 29. Anthony will draw a 5, bringing his total up to 14. So he is down by 15. Yoda has no forfeit. Cad Bane goes to the lost pile. Dash Rendar sitting alone. Batmouse has to lose 10 in overflow, and he is peeling. Where are you looking for me? Sorry around, kid. Or see you around, kid. Padme, Captain Harris Andula, Din Djarin, Speak with the Jedi Council, Sense, General Leia Organa, Ahsoka Tano, and a Luke Skywalker Rebel Scout all go to the lost pile. Batmouse sitting at 17 in Life Force. And Pat will draw a card with Shadows of the Empire, pushing more damage onto Anthony. As we see a see you around kid go lost. Anthony activates. Pat activates with Wipe Them Out, all of them. He'll also take a Force Lightning into hand with the Emperor. As we have a Luke Skywalker Rebel Scout coming down in front of the Emperor, Jango Fett, and Forlom. There is another barrier from Pat. Luke cannot move, cannot battle, cannot really do much of anything. As we do have a GG from Batmouse. So big congrats to Pat on taking down the Jawa Brawl. He was our #1 finalist, or our #1 player at the end of the event. He goes in as an 11-1 player and then takes down Batmouse to win the Jawa Brawl. So thanks everybody for watching. It has been a pleasure. Enjoy yourselves out there. Be safe. And as always, may the Force be with you. Have a good night, everybody.